Welcome to Your Home Arts. I'll be showing you some watercolour techniques. Be sure to check out part 1 for some more watercolour techniques. Everything you need will be listed in the description below. Let's get into the video. For my first technique, I'll be using plastic wrap. I'm going to lay down a flat wash of dark paint. The more pigment you use, it will look more effective. Grabbing some plastic wrap, I'm scrunching this and going to place this onto the paint. I'm going to let this sit and come back to this once it has dried. You don't have much control on how this turns out, and that's the fun part. Stay tuned till the end, where I reveal the dried look. Next, onto stippling. I've got some paint onto my brush, and I'm going to be placing some small dots onto my page. The bigger brush you use, the bigger the dots will appear. I'm going to wet part of the square, and I'm going to try the stippling on this. And you see that it bleeds out. This is another way of stippling onto your artwork. They both give great detail and extra texture to your artwork. Next is indenting. I'm taking an old pen and I'm going to press down and make some swirly lines. I'm taking some paint and painting over this. This hasn't shown up much and looks very subtle, but this depends on what effect you want to achieve. I'm going to try the end of my paintbrush and see if this shows up more. This was also a subtle effect. I've tested it out using a scalpel. It definitely works better if you use a sharper tool. So depending on what outcome you want, you could try different tools. I would definitely recommend using a sharper tool, as this will show up and look more effective. Next, I'm using a sponge. I've cut a small square from a kitchen sponge. Or you can use a larger paintbrush sponge like the one I'm using. I've dipped the paintbrush sponge in some paint and lightly dabbing this onto the page. This wasn't as effective, so I'm going to try my other sponge. So lightly dabbing this onto the page, picking up more paint for a more dramatic look. This is a really nice look to add any extra texture if you were painting trees or adding detail to water. This is one to experiment with. Onto using tissue. I've added some colour down onto my page. And placing some kitchen tissue down and allowing the paint to soak into the tissue, and it lifts that paint up. The less pressure you use, the less it will pick up. Or you can hold this down and let this soak up more of the paint. This is a great effect for misty backgrounds or cloud-like effects, but get creative and have fun with this technique. And for my last technique, this is wet dry lift. And this is a technique I use all the time. I first came across this when I was being impatient and waiting for my artwork to dry. I'm going in heavy with my paints and painting a loose flower. I'm going to let this sit, but I'm not going to let this completely dry. Once I see parts are drying, I'm going to lay a piece of tissue and press lightly. And lifting this off, this leaves you with a darker outline and picks up part of the paint where it was wet. I'm just going back to our plastic wrap and just lifting that off, and you're left with these beautiful markings. The plastic traps part of the paint and leaves you with different results every time. I hope you've learned some new and fun techniques to try out. Thanks for watching.